All right, let's get started here. Trying out the live stream. Today on Locked On Rockies, what else are we going to talk about? Jon Gray, the front office, and whole lot more. Today on Locked On Rockies. Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into today's episode of Locked On Rockies. I am Paul Holden, your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. We'll be bringing you Rockies talk every day here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. It's what we do. And there's lots to talk about today. There's only one player to talk about today. That's Jon Gray. No longer a member of the Colorado Rockies. He signs a 5-year, $56 million deal, if I got those numbers right. Let me double check here. It's 4 years. Let's get the Passan tweet here. Still working out. Man, baseball has been crazy. $56 million over 4 years pending a physical with the Texas Rangers. There it is, folks. There it is. The worries that we had, the issues that we brought up, the things that we talked about, the concerns that were aired, they are all on full display now as the Rockies offer significantly less than what the Rangers were willing to offer for someone who was wanting to come back to Colorado and, as many believe, is one of the best pitchers to ever be a Rocky. And I think you can see the numbers and back that up. It's someone who has demonstrated an ability to handle the environment of Coors Field and showed an enthusiasm for playing in Coors Field. Losing Jon Gray is a bummer. It's when you think about it, Jon Gray is not losing your number one. It's not losing your ace. It's not losing someone, that's your 1-2. He's going to be a fine back half of the rotation guy, but he played such a good role. He knew his environment and he knew his role. And while he had he was getting a little older, we had a little bit of the issues with velocity. We're going to go on Twitter and dive into some of the stuff that people were telling me today, and since the news break of some things to consider with the loss of Jon Gray. But this was a player that wanted to be back. This was a player that was a pitcher. I mean, they built this rotation. This was something the Rockies were so focused on for so long, was building a rotation that wanted to be here, that was successful pitching here, that was able to handle playing at Coors Field. And yet, here we are. We're facing another offseason where the Rockies have put themselves in a position that they didn't need to be in. So now not only do the Rockies need to add a power bat to the outfield, a replacement for Trevor Story, and now a fourth arm. No young pitcher, no young starter for the Rockies in the Rockies organization has shown you enough to believe in them more than paying Jon Gray $56 million over 4 years. I tweeted this out, and then there were some points to be made that maybe we shouldn't be comparing Jon Gray and Senza. It's kind of two different situations. But my thought is, when you bring up what Senza got paid this offseason and why the Rockies went after him, it's not that big of a stretch to argue, why couldn't they just pay both of them? You can't pay Jon $56 million, a pitcher that accounted for 20% of your your FWAR, your FWAR last year. As we saw a tweet, I need to credit all these people that I've seen these tweets for and all this information, because just look on Rockies Twitter. Just look. That was Matt Patson, by the way. Woke up still mad about the Rockies letting 20% of their 2021 FWR walk out the door without so much as an honest effort to retain or trade them. Folks, if you wanted to move on from Jon Gray, that's fine. It's a bummer because honestly, he's been a good piece. He's been a nice addition to the Rockies. When Jon Gray takes the bump, I'm not worried. But if now losing Jon Gray means more Chichi Gonzalez, more Peter Lambert, and we got to let these young guys go, I would take Jon Gray every single time over them. Every single time. This is just a move that doesn't make any sense. It's fine. Again, if you want to move on, that's fine. But the Rockies didn't get anything back from Jon Gray. no trade, none of their coveted draft picks, nothing. They just let a pitcher who wanted to be in Colorado, walk for nothing. They didn't get anything. Jon Gray and Trevor Story's return for them leaving the club is one draft pick. That is awful. That doesn't make any sense. Both of those players had high interest at the trade deadline. Maybe not the same as other people, but you could have gotten so much more. So much more. That's what's frustrating. And Bill Schmidt's been in charge this entire process at this point, handling this last year of Jon Gray's thing. So this is a Bill Schmidt move. And for Bill Schmidt to come out and say he feels good about undervaluing a player by $16 million. What is going on? What is going on? It's truly, honestly, folks, it's a matter of how is this a productive move? How does this make the Rockies better? How are the Rockies in a better situation and in a better spot right now because they did not trade Trevor Story and they did not trade Jon Gray? They aren't in a better position. They're in a worse position. Let's dive into some of the reactions and a lot more about this. I'm trying not to get super heated, but folks, I'm frustrated. I am very, very frustrated by this. It's incredibly frustrating. This is an incredibly frustrating time period to be a Rockies fan. These past two off seasons have just been so mind-blowing when it comes to why. Why was this the move? Is this just because this is where the chips laid and you tried to go somewhere else and you really truly felt confident in your deal to Jon Gray that he rejected already? And then let me know about the conversations going on now, because I bet you they didn't happen. Because Jon Gray probably said no, and they didn't go back and do anything else. So the Rangers go in and give him a great opportunity. Good for Jon Gray. I love that Jon Gray gets a nice, great deal. 4 years, $56 million. That's a good deal for Jon Gray on a team that has a tremendous upside now and a different mindset. This is another Rockies player that wanted to commit to this team that is no longer with the club and was pushed out, essentially. I guess he wasn't pushed out. We can't say that. He was offered something, but clearly the last few years and the way this season panned out impacted Jon Gray. More about Jon Gray, more Twitter reactions, more from some stuff I saw. But first, let me tell you about how to get your TV together. Let's take all this talk of disorganization and frustration, throw it out the window, because let's get our TV together at least, because then we can all gather around and enjoy quality entertainment all in one place. So you don't have to have the one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, one device watching the sports highlights, and your best friend's neighbor's login for the other good stuff. Get your TV together. Get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. Get it all with DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy a device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Find out more about DirecTV Stream. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. directtv.com. This situation the Rockies have now found themselves in would be an easier pill to swallow if there was something that seemed like a plan, something that seemed like it makes sense, but this simply doesn't make sense. The Rockies cannot be in a better position. They can't be sitting there as the front office saying, we are in a better position to win just with these pieces to add, because you've only brought back pieces of a team that couldn't play on the road, finished out of the playoff picture, and in the middle to bottom of the division. How are the Rockies better? Let's take a look at some of the responses we got here. Stephen Cross says, it's really disappointing to see Gray leave. The Rockies spent a long time trying to set up the rotation that we have now. Losing one of the big pieces leaves a big gap for sure. At least we didn't send the Rangers $50 million to help pay for him. Jambron 303, someone you got to follow if you want to make sure you're getting some great Rockies talk over there. The definition of someone who has put the lifetime into the Rockies fandom and has just been spurned by the team. Senza is younger and has shown a year or two of decent/strong pitching. Gray's a top 5 franchise pitcher of all time, but on the wrong side of 30 with injury and velocity concerns. 4 years, $56 million is absurdly reasonable offer to match for Gray. They easily could have done both. He followed that up by saying, other than Rolison, the Rockies have no MLB-ready starters. To fill the void, they'll need to sign someone, and it'll either be more expensive than Gray or a lesser quality arm. I don't get it. Rolison was injured most of last year, and I wouldn't count on him at this point. And he follows that up again with, here's the rotation. Marquez, Senzatella, Freeland, Gomber, Rolison, ? Huge drop-off, Lambert. That's a very pedestrian rotation with zero depth as things stand right now. It is. And even if doesn't strike fear into the hearts with Jon Gray, you're just more confident in that lineup, in that rotation. When the rotation is Marquez, Senza, Freeland, Gomber, Gray. And then you have your sixth guy, and it's your Peter Lambert, your Ashton Godot's, your young people that you want to figure out. That's fine. But you're much, much more confident in the Rockies, in these Rockies starters, when Jon Gray's in the mix. The Rockies, and especially at home. And here's the deal, folks. Do we have, we have to wonder about some of this stuff. Austin Gomber didn't play a full year last year. These younger arms haven't really shown us anything. Peter Lambert was hurt. None of these replacements for Jon Gray within the Rockies organization makes sense at this point, really. So he's right. Jambron's right. They're going to have to go probably after someone. And if it's more expensive, if you're able to go after and spend a little more money and convince someone to come play, that's going to be a much harder thing to do now. When you can't get the guy that's on record, the pitcher that says he wants to come back, you can't get him to come back because you're undervaluing his potential. What is with the Rockies not seeing what other people see in Rockies players? How are the Rockies that far off on the money? That's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. I just don't see a path because, again, why are you willing to spend more money on someone else? I mean, which is great, but you're not going to get who out of the starting pitchers are the Rockies going to entice to come play for a team that's seeing exodus of free agents, of people that don't want to be there anymore, and disarray in the front office. It makes more sense to try and go roll the dice and play with the Mets or these other teams that have crazy stuff that happen to them all the time, because the Rockies are doing it to themselves. They're not even just letting things play out. They're not even taking the chances. Undervaluing Jon Gray by $16 million is ridiculous. Ridiculous. These players just come and they give the Rockies just such good performance, and then they don't see it the same way. Thomas Harding at Harding MLB. Amid reports that right on it, this is before, but GM Bill Schmidt said he spoke to Gray's representative and told John and Jacqueline are going to go in a different direction. Schmidt said he felt good about Colorado's offer and did not regret not dealing him at the deadline. The Athletic reported the Rockies offer a 3 to 4 years and $35 to $40 million, but ESPN reports that the Rangers deal at 4 years, $56 million. Like, come on. Again, it's one thing if you don't want to pay Jon Gray that money. I understand. But clearly the value of Jon Gray was higher than you thought was more. You do not put yourself in a better position to win and get back into contention by not trading Jon Gray. That is what we've learned now. because there had to be more of a sign here. You had to have known earlier. The Rockies now get back for two players with considerable trade value, one draft pick. One draft pick. Why no qualifying offer, at least to Jon Gray? If you knew because with the fact that Jon Gray rejected this extension earlier into the offseason, why was the qualifying offer not at least extended so you could get two draft picks? Why did the Rangers without the qualifying offer, that's probably why the Rangers are able to go and pay that money and feel comfortable about doing it. Exhausting. Disappointing. How do you feel? How do you grow confidence as a Rockies fan with these two off seasons? Yes, good that we have CJ Cron. Good that we got Senza. Good that we have Elias Diaz. But those were all pieces that added to a team that was so uncompetitive, not competitive, whatever the proper grammar is, against the top of the division. This team needs to actually create and craft a plan. We're recording live today. Shout out to Stephen Cross joining us here in the YouTube chat. Our front office has no idea to deal with their own players. I wish we had a front office that was honest, took care of their star players, being transparent, and more about weather rebuilding, etc. Exactly. Just embrace the rebuild and stop treating Rockies fans like we're dumb. You might not say we're in a rebuild. And honestly, you might not actually be rebuilding because there's clearly not a lot of gathering of prospects, moving on of stuff like that. So what is the plan? What is the plan then? Why don't we know what the plan is? Why wasn't there more of a plan at the trade deadline? If we're not rebuilding, what are we doing? Because we're not competitive with we are not competitive with the Dodgers and the Giants. Somehow we're still competitive with the Padres, but that's because they fell apart and all that stuff. And they're also the Padres. The Rockies always, beat the Padres. That's fine. But still, if you're not going to say we're rebuilding, if you're not going to say we're doing this, then what are we doing? More reaction from Jon Gray, more talking points, but I got a deal to tell you about. If you love Built Bars, it's the best Monday of the year, Cyber Monday. And Built.com is the place to aim your mouse. Get at least 20% off everything delicious and healthy. That's 20% off statewide. And even bigger discounts on Built Boost Broth and Built Swag. A brand new Built Bar flavor has just landed in time for Cyber Monday. Caramel Almond Delight. It delivers everything it promises. Caramelized chocolate, check. Almonds, check. Delightful, double check. Be sure to get yours before they're gone. 150 calories, 17 grams of protein. And this season, maybe you're craving white chocolate. For a limited time, get a special new Built Bar Puffs flavor. White chocolate cheesecake, the yummy protein treat filled with marshmallowy center covered in white chocolate, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein. 'Tis the season to save and to give your taste buds the gift of Built Bar. Go to Built.com for these incredible tasting new bars and 20% off everything. Head to Built.com, enter the code LOCKED20 before it's too late. Get 20% off everything. Use the code LOCKED20 before it's too late. This is not a way to build confidence in your team, in your fan base, and in your club, and in the direction you want to go as a new GM. Whether you want to hide behind the interim tag during the year so that can explain the lack of trading and the lack of moves in season, we all knew Bill Schmidt was the GM of this team. It's as soon as he was appointed GM and the search didn't happen, we knew he was the GM of this team. And we were told when Bill Schmidt was appointed the GM of this team and given the role that he was easily the best candidate. How many times do you have to get hit over the head? Blah, bitty, blah, bitty, blah. How am I supposed to feel confident as a Rockies fan? How am I supposed to feel excited? What about this makes me excited? What about being a Rockies fan the past 2 years makes me think that the Rockies have any commitment to any of their great players that they themselves developed and Bill Schmidt himself had a role in developing? Bill Schmidt, of all people, should be very thankful for these these few draft players that blossomed so well. Because I was looking at some numbers, and I wish I could get the more complete statistics, but if it wasn't for Nolan Arenado and Charlie Blackmon and Freeland and just some of the fan favorites of the Rockies over the past few years, the performance of Bill Schmidt developed players has not been good. And most of the contributions of people that Bill Schmidt wanted to build on, it is awful. God, it is just said. How am I supposed to, like, again, where's my confidence? Where's my confidence coming? Am I as a fan supposed to feel like the Rockies are moving in the right direction? What about the performance on the field last year? Because guess what? Two players that contributed greatly to the success of the Colorado Rockies will not be on the team next year. Are they? And you're right. Free agency is has it. Oh wait, the entire organization is shutting down in 3 days. And all the Rockies have done is managed to bring back the utility players that are 3 years too late to the competitive window. It is nothing against those players being able to come back and get their opportunity. I am thankful that there are good players that want to sign with the Rockies, and I'm thankful that there are players like Jon Gray that wanted to be part of the Rockies, but understood and looked at the situation and went and got a better situation for themselves. No matter what happens to Jon Gray, which I hope he goes and has a very, very good career in Texas. He doesn't need to be the next starter for them, but if he can hold a back end of a bullpen for a Rangers team that's coming back with a whole bunch of fun, good for him. And you know what? If his buddy Trevor Story is doing it at short, good for them. Because they went after it, and they probably went to a team that said, look at the value of those players. Look at the environment that Jon Gray was able to thrive in. And he's not perfect. Again, he's got that high ERA, that velocity issues, injury stuff, sure. But they still see it enough. Why doesn't the Rockies front office see Rockies players the same way that the rest of the league does? Because how many times do you have to sit there? Like, if you're Bill Schmidt and you have any access to the internet and you're reading Twitter, how are you supposed to sit there and feel like this is good? When not only are people up in arms about your latest move here and the lack of bringing back Jon Gray, but when every report that comes out from meetings is that the Rockies are viewed as a joke, as a laughing stock, as out of control, as what the heck is going on? That doesn't at least make you consider reevaluating how you're doing things? At least a little. Again, it's not a matter of the Rockies, it's all over. Jon Gray didn't come back. It's fine if Jon Gray doesn't come back, but it's not fine that you didn't get anything in return. It's not fine that you let Jon Gray walk when there was multiple opportunities to have him either come back to the team and contribute as a player, or to help him go off and go help a competitor down the stretch and then let him go off into free agency and do his thing while getting a haul back. The Rockies are not in a better position on November 29, 2021 because they kept Trevor Story and Jon Gray. They are, in fact, in a worse position because now they need 3 big things to address in an offseason that is already being gobbled up, or free agents are already being signed for bigger markets, more money, and more exciting places to play. And then it's going to shut down in 3 days. But you can't sit here and say that, well, darn it, you undervalued a guy that wanted to be backed by $16 million. You let Trevor Story go, not trade him and let him go through a season of up and down, and you're going to only get one draft pick back. But Bill Schmidt loves to draft. Feel like I'm just ranting at this point, folks. I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Rockies podcast for today. There will be more of this talk this week, honestly. We have to keep addressing this. Where the Rockies go from here, we'll figure it out. I know if you listened, it sounded like I was making Jon Gray out to be the best pitcher the Rockies have ever seen, and that's not the case. It's the case of being in a situation where the Rockies could have been in a more rebuild. They could have moved on earlier and gotten stuff in the bat instead. And instead, there are two of the biggest trade pieces the Rockies had in 2021. The return is one draft pick and more tweets about what the heck is going on in Colorado. Thank you for tuning in. We're on streaming services. You can find us there. Follow us there. We're streaming live this episode. Not all the time. We're not going to stream the episodes live. Figured I wanted to test it out and have some fun today. But yeah, we've been live here with the show on YouTube today. You can follow us on YouTube at Locked On Rockies there. And you can follow the show on Twitter at LO Rockies. You can follow me at Paul Holden 33. I'll be bringing you a Rockies talk all year long right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. More to come this week. More Jon Gray talk. More fun. Well, we'll try to have some fun next time on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, folks, so long.